witches.
Hi, hello, and welcome back to another episode.
It is
Uh,
cryptid time.
yeah, so we're going to be learning about two cryptids. My cryptid is called the Flatwoods Monster from West Virginia, and Brandy's cryptid is the Squonk
Squonk.
from
Squonk.
Pennsylvania. So, all right. So, all right, mine is the Flatwoods Monster. It has a little bit of a backstory. It doesn't have a lot of things about it because I think it's only been seen once, and if it's been seen more than once, it's not really well documented about it. So around 7:15 and September 12th, 1952, two brothers, Edward and Fred May, with their friend Tommy Hyer, said that they saw a bright object go across the sky and the land on a property of a local farmer. Um, so they went to the home of Kathleen May, where they told their story, and I don't know if they're related to Kathleen May because they have like the same last name. It could be a sister. I don't know. It doesn't necessarily tell me. But they, May, accompanied by the three boys, men, whatever, I don't know, went to the local home of the farmer with some local children and the West Virginia National Guardsmen. Um, they went here to kind of see what they had seen and like kind of debunk what was going on. So the Guardsman said that he aimed a flashlight in that direction of where the pulsating like red light was found. And they momentarily saw a tall man-like figure with a round red face surrounded by a pointed hood-like shape. Um, so the descriptions have varied, but basically it's his head is kind of like the shape of like spades, kind of pointy spades basically, and the eyes are very, very red. Um, it's like a greenish orange light, basically, a large pointed hood like shape, um, and a dark black green kind of body. They describe it very humanoid and extraterrestrial like. Um, the picture that they're showing is like metal based, um, but I don't know. So they said that they also smelled a pungent mist, and some later said that they were nauseated by it, and felt very overwhelmed. So the local sheriff and a deputy had been investigating these reports of the crashed aircraft, basically the UFO, in the area. And when they searched the site of the reported monster, they didn't see or hear or even smell anything. So they obviously thought it was a prank. So according to um, someone's account on the next day, um, somebody claimed that he discovered skid marks on the field in an odd gummy deposit, which were subsequently attributed to like by the UFO enthusiast as a saucer landing. So people thought that this small little community in Flatwoods, West Virginia, in 1953, the time and the era of all extraterrestrial UFO sightings, it happened to them. So, according to this, they were carried throughout the country. Radio broadcasts were carried on large networks. Hundreds of phone calls were received from all parts of the country asking about this event. Let's see. A lot of people came to question the family. A Pittsburgh paper sent a special reporter, UFO and Fortean writers like Ray Barker and Ivan T. Sanderson arrived to investigate. Um, a lot of people were like, no, it was just a large owl with like a huge wingspan, and there was like a bright light over it, and like the moonlight emitting over the owl made it appear as if it was bigger than it truly was. Um, and even the night that it was seen, they actually had been like a meteor going across the sky, and so others thought maybe it was like the flash from that meteor, that made it appear as if it was that shadow effect.
Hmm.
Some people are saying that the goo that was found, that was left, was like a mixture of like bird droppings in a way, like anything you can make up as goop.
Gross.
Um, yeah. Um, let's see. They said that based on the shape, movement, and sounds reported by the witness, it's very consistent with the silhouette, flight pattern, and call of a startled barn owl, which is why most people think that it's just fake. There is a skeptic, though, that explains the nausea reported by some of the witnesses as a symptom of consistent with hysteria and overexertment. So it was late at night when it like they first saw it, and then they got excited, went to tell everybody else, and then they're rushing out to show everybody what they found or what they saw. Um, so now Flatwoods, West Virginia, not necessarily, huge on the map. It's not something that you're going to learn in school, kind of thing. But it actually came in and made a huge welcome sign with a picture of the Flatwoods Monster on it. They even have a chair that welcomes you. So, like, when you're in the Midwest, now I know West Virginia is not in the Midwest, but there's actually a lot of places with giant fucking chairs,
Why? But
and
yes.
rocking chairs specifically in like the Midwest.
Yes.
It's rocking chairs, and they're big enough for 3 or 4 people to sit in, like where
Yes.
your butt should be. Not necessarily going to fit perfectly, but like where your butt should be, there's like 3 or 4 people that can sit there. So it's big chairs, and that's basically what this chair is. It's a big welcome chair that welcomes visitors near and far to see the Flatwoods Monster. Um, they
Okay.
even have they even have a festival that commemorates that day. It's called Flatwoods Days. Um, and there is what is it? Um, Located in the town of Sutton, the Braxton County seat, is the Flatwoods Monster Museum, which is dedicated to the legend. The Braxton County Convention and Visitors Bureau built a series of 5 tall chairs in the shape of the monster to serve as landmarks and visitor attractions. The Bureau rewards visitors who photograph all 5 chairs with free Braxy stickers. Um, so there is a West Virginia rock singer who has actually has a song called "The Bean," and it references the Flatwoods Monster. It's also been inspired by outside media beyond West Virginia. So, like video games like Fallout 76 and Everybody's Golf 4 contain references to the legend. Um, there is actually a 2018 documentary. It's called A Flatwoods Monster, A Legacy of Fear. It's produced by a small indie production company documenting unusual events throughout America called Small Town Monsters. The History Channel in 2019 actually had a series called the Project Blue Book titled The Flatwood Monster, and it's based on the Flatwoods incident. Now, my main thing about this, why I wanted it, is it resembles a character from, not a character, it's not somebody that you interact with, talk to, it's not an NPC game. It's actually a monster, I guess. So like whenever you play Legend of Zelda, you're going out into the fields. Like there's, depending on the game and depending on where you're at, will depend on what kind of monsters that you come in contact with and who you need to fight or what you need to fight. So this particular one is in Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. So, and it's not confirmed by the makers of Legend of Zelda, Nintendo, nothing like that. It's not confirmed. Yes, we took whatever based off this. It's actually possibly a coincidence. So there is a location in Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask called the Lon Lon Ranch. It is a farm out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of Hyrule Field. Basically, well, it's not Hyrule Field. It's not Hyrule in this. For Legend of Zelda nerds, like you'd understand it, but it's a little pasture-based farm. And at night, these little monsters um, will come out to the Romani Ranch. I guess it's not the Long Island Ranch. I'm literally in the wrong fucking time period. So with Legend of Zelda lore, there are timelines, and in one timeline, um, you do the Ocarina of Time, which is a very well-known Legend of Zelda game. Um, then, depending on the outcome of that game, based on lore, you either go to Majora's Mask or you move on to the next like world, basically. Majora's Mask is where like this person wakes up, has no idea where he's at. He's in a alternate reality in a way, but he's like known there, but it's kind of weird. Um, but this place is called Romani Ranch. It's based after Lon Lon Ranch, essentially, in the Termina Field, which is Hyrule Field. So it's everything's just weird. I liked it. I also didn't like it because you had 3 days to do things. And when you were done at the end of your third day, you had to reverse time, but that made you have to do certain things over and over again. And that pisses me off. That is my biggest pet peeve. If I have to do the same thing 7,000 times for the sake of a game, I like the mechanic. I don't like doing it myself. So I never actually, this is probably the one Zelda game I have yet to beat because it pisses me off so much. But one day. Anyways, so throughout the game, you actually talk to the person who was it? You talk to a ranch, like somebody who lives at the ranch. You talk to them, and she says they come at night every year when the carnival approaches. They come riding in a bright shining ball. A whole lot of them come down, and then they come to the barn. So all these things literally flock to this barn, flock to this farmhouse on a quiet evening, and this is the only person that has seen it. Nobody else sees it. So it's kind of weird, and they look alike. I mean, they have like the spade like head. They have like the long dangly arms. I mean, they're purple, colorful in the game, but they come out and they're just a monster that you have to fight in the area. So again, it's not confirmed because no one said yes, this is like where you're taking it from. But the Flatwood Monsters, like it happened first before like all of this ever happened, and that became a worldwide phenomenon. So to see what the Flatwood Monsters looks like, or to appreciate the legend, you can still go to the place today in West Virginia, Sutton, West Virginia, and you can go to the Flatwoods Monster Museum to see all about what happened in that area of 1952. And you can also play Majora's Mask. It's a pretty dope game, though, so, I mean, don't get addicted. I do say so myself. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. I never knew about the Flatwoods Monster. I've heard about it, but I never knew about it. But then when I saw it, I was like, why does that look familiar? And then the person who told me about the Flatwoods Monster was like, you play Legend of Zelda, like you should know. Like, look at this. And I was like, that's so cool. So yeah.
Nice.
It's just weird how like the original story of the Flatwoods Monster is like kind of incorporated into the Legend of Zelda game. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
All right.
That's the Flatwoods Monster.
I feel like it probably was at least loosely based on it. Like some
Yeah.
developer or writer probably knew that and was like taking inspiration.
And
That's a really
I
big
honestly,
coincidence.
right, and some people get really upset about that. They're like, "Oh, well, this is the one of the biggest well-known game things of our time, kind of whatever." Because it was re-released, I think, in 2000, maybe. I don't know, but
Who knows?
they, yeah, it was because it was like Super Nintendo times, Super Nintendo like N64 days, but like I don't know. I like bringing outside folklore into the game because it kind of makes it to me it brings like a better it kind of sucks me into the game more. It makes me
Yeah.
feel like I'm actually there, like, oh, this is cool. Like I'm learning a little bit of history on top
Yeah.
of the lore that's mimicking their own world. I think that's cool.
Yeah. I like it. Okay. The Squonk. So, first of all, first and foremost, and because I know there's going to be that one person listening that's like, this Squonk isn't a cryptid, there is some debate about whether or not the Squonk is a cryptid. So, the definition of a cryptid is basically an animal or um, type of being that has been seen but cannot be scientifically verified. Because there are some animals, like the platypus, for instance, that used to be a cryptid and has now since
Oh yeah, because
been,
they were like giant.
yeah, and it has since been like it is a real animal. Um, However, that is not the case for the Squonk. The Squonk is what's called a fearsome creature, um, who supposedly was made up by the lumberjacks, um, because that's a thing. Lumberjacks apparently make up like tall tales. I don't know, but
What was that famous lumberjack? It was like a tall tale from that we learned in
Paul Bunyan,
yeah, Paul
yeah,
Bunyan and his blue ox
yeah,
and his huge ass daughter that created Niagara Falls.
yeah.
Paul
So
Bunyan days. Oh God, the
this
Midwest.
this is yes, yes. Um, so the Squonk supposedly lives in the hemlock forests of northern Pennsylvania, but it was like driven there by the lumberjacks. So, um, it usually travels at night, so you see it most often at twilight or dusk. Um, it looks like a cross between a dog and a pig with like super wrinkly skin. What is that dog that has the super like wrinkly?
Sharpay.
Yes,
Sharpay.
it kind of looks like one of those, but with a longer snout. Um, it looks gross. Um, and literally, there's a quote from T.C. Cox, who wrote Fearsome Creatures of the Lumberwoods. Um, it says, the Squonk is of a very retiring disposition, generally traveling about at twilight and dusk. Because of its misfitting skin, which is covered with warts and moles, it is always unhappy. Hunters who are good at tracking are able to follow a Squonk by its tear-stained trail, for the animal weeps constantly. When cornered and escape seems impossible, or when surprised and frightened, it may even dissolve itself in its tears. So it's basically really ugly and it's super sad about it. So it cries all the time. And if you scare it,
With
or
a
like,
name like Squonk, I'd probably cry all the time too. Like,
right? And if you scare it or surprise it or corner it, then it will dissolve itself in its own tears and just disappear. So, yep, that's the Squonk. That I'm just kidding. That's not all I have. Um, it also there are some like tellings of the story that they are the slowest and easiest to catch on moonlit nights because they try to avoid seeing themselves in like reflections on bodies of water. Um, and they also have webbed toes on only their left feet, which I will explain a little bit later. But on only their left feet, they have webbed toes. Um, this species actually has a scientific name, and it's Lacrima corpus, which literally is the Latin word for tear for body and dissolve. So its scientific name is referring to its ability to dissolve when captured. Um,
It's like the Wicked Witch of the West.
yeah,
Throw
kind
water on
of.
it and it just goes away.
Yep. Um, there's actually a, a scientific reference to the squonk. It's kind of funny. Um, so in chemistry, or maybe biology, I think it's chemistry, there are some substances that are stable in solution or some other form, but they can't be isolated or captured without, like, you can't isolate them without their own decomposition or like dissolving. Um, so, for example, a molecule, this is a straight quote from the journal because I was like, what the fuck? A molecule containing a carboxylic acid moiety and an acid labile moiety might be stable when initially prepared as the salt, but unstable as the free acid. And these, like, molecules or solutions are named chemical squonks because they dissolve themselves, which I thought was kind of funny. Um, okay, a sighting, really the only sighting of the squonk, was Mr. J.P. Wentling, who is formerly of Pennsylvania, but then went to St. Anthony Park, Minnesota, had a disappointing experience with a squonk. Um, he was hunting the squonk and he was trying to capture it. So he mimicked the squonk and tricked it into hopping into a sack, which, go Google a picture of the squonk. I don't think this animal can hop, so that's an interesting verb to use. But he tricked it into the sack in any event, and he was carrying it home, and all of a sudden the sound, like the weeping sound, stopped, and the sack went super light. And when he looked into the sack, there was nothing but salt water and bubbles. So, um, then I talked about T.C. Cox's book up above. In 1939, Henry Tyron wrote another book, and I have like a whole quote from it here. And this is the quote that within the quote it tells us about the web toes. It says, of the squonk, the distribution was once fairly wide. The usual habitat was high plains where desert vegetation was abundant. History shows that beyond dispute that as these areas gradually changed to swampy, lake-dotted country, the squonk was forced to take to the water. Of distinctly low mentality, it traveled constantly counterclockwise around the unaccustomed marches in search of fodder. So basically, they're saying the squonk is pretty dumb, and it always walks around the water with its left feet in the water. And basically, it evolved to have webbing between its toes, but only on the left feet because those are the ones in the water. So when the squonk goes into the water, again, not a very smart animal, it can only swim in circles and never get back to shore. And fossil bones dredged from these lake bottoms reveal that thousands of squonks perished of starvation in this manner. Now, from what I understand, this book, Fearsome Critters, um, is another book of tall tales. So there's not really skeletons of these animals in the lake, but that's the story. Then just some pop culture things. I just have a couple little things. Johnstown, Pennsylvania celebrates Squonkapalooza in August every year. This is apparently a very, very small town in Pennsylvania. So they have Squonkapalooza though. Sounds fun.
It's fine. Flatwoods has like 200 people.
Yeah, it's a real small town.
So
Then there are two songs that mention the squonk. One of them I apparently did not write down, But the song is not about the squonk. It just mentions, um, you think you've seen me cry, you should see the squonk, or something like that was the lyric. But Genesis, the band, actually has an entire song called Squonk that is about the squonk. So there are
Alexa,
two.
you have something to say?
Yeah, she does. It's probably that there's a wind chill warning in effect
Oh, that's right. It's cold as
until
fuck up there.
tomorrow at noon. Um, so the Genesis song called Squonk, I wrote down, or I copied a couple of the lyrics to share, because the whole song is literally about the squonk, and I think it's fucking hilarious.
He's so ugly, but so cute at the same time.
Right?
I think
Um,
it's the crying that gets to me.
right? It's a really gross looking little creature. It's gross. But it's also very sad and lonely. It's like Eeyore. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
I was like, what vibe am I getting from him? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So these lyrics, the first one of the first verses is, a mirror, mirror on the wall. His heart was broken long before he ever came to you. Stop your tears from falling. The trail they leave is very clear for all to see at night, which is referencing all the crying that this poor sad creature does. And then another verse is, walking home that night, the sack across my back, the sound of sobbing on my shoulder. When suddenly it stopped, I opened up the sack, all that I had, a pool of bubbles and tears, just a pool of tears. So that's referencing the story, um, about J.P. Wentling, who had captured the squonk. Um, and I tell you, I even listened to another podcast to try to get more information about the squonk, and this is it. Like, short of going and actually reading these two books that I referenced, which I did not have access to, or I would have done, um, that is all the information out there about the squonk. Poor, sad little creature. So,
That's a lot, though. I mean,
yeah. It's interesting, like, it's not very well known. Even, like, I went on, like, Reddit and Tumblr boards, and even, like, a lot of people that live in Pennsylvania haven't heard of the squonk. But then it's, like, referenced in multiple, like, big pop culture, like, things. Like, Genesis is, like, a very famous band, like,
mm-hmm.
so it's just interesting.
Oh,
And that song is called Squonk, by the way. So, like, if you wanted to go listen to it, it is literally called Squonk.
Look at us getting little things with little songs named after them.
Yeah.
I love that.
So that's it. Little pig dog
Cool.
with
Love
wrinkly
that.
skin.
He really does look like a pig dog. I was getting like Eeyore, Piglet vibes.
Yeah. Honestly, the picture on, like, the Wikipedia, I think, looks like an anteater that's just, like, smushed.
Yeah, it's like a Shar-Pei pig with
Yeah.
like a long snout. Yeah,
Yeah.
so insane. I love it.
So there it is. That's the squonk.
Yay!
So, all
Well,
right.
what a wonderful way to end the week. All right.
All right.
And we will see you next time.
Bye.